guys, what's going on? Caden Cleveland here with the Oklahoma Senate, and you're joining us for another episode of OK Senate Sit Down. This time we're with Senator Gary Stanislawski. Senator, you are one of the champions here in the Senate for education and everything that the Senate has been able to do for education. So really just want to have you in here this week to talk about kind of the hindsight view of everything that was accomplished this year in session. So sound all right to you?
That sounds like a great plan.
Awesome, there we go. Well, guys, we'll be right back. We'll be talking a lot about education, so stick around and we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. As I mentioned before, we are joined with Senator Gary Stanislawski. Senator Stanislawski is the chair of our Education Committee here in the Senate. So, Senator, we'll get the opportunity now to kind of look at the session from hindsight. We just wrapped up. Really wanted to ask you what you thought were the main key accomplishments that the legislature has been able to do and to really improve our education system. So I'll kind of turn it over to you there and see kind of where that takes us.
I can tell you overall, I'm extremely pleased with the way we finished this session. Strong for education, putting over $70 million in the classrooms, which teachers and principals, superintendents, school boards have been telling us they desperately needed. Teacher pay raise, which was outstanding as well. And then one of the biggest accomplishments was restoring the 5-day school week. This year, we will have put in, as a state, over $3 billion into public education.
That's just in appropriated funds also.
Just appropriated funds, that's right. And so many years ago, we helped our school districts and allowed them to just do number of hours, 1,080 hours, or 180 days. Either one, they can choose. Well, many school districts chose the hours. And they have flexibility on Fridays. They do teacher collaboration at times with different teachers to talk about students, how to improve outcomes for kids. Very useful things that they were doing. And they still do in the classroom 175 days. 5 days, I mentioned 180 before, but that's used for parent-teacher conferences and professional development. So they do 175, and I know a number of districts doing that. But there are a little over 90 districts that decided they wanted to go to a 4-day school week. And they did it primarily to retain teachers. Now, we're in a national teacher shortage. That's just plain and simple. That's 1/3 fewer students over the last, I think, 7 or 8 years now going into education in college. And so that's going to produce a shortage, and it definitely has. So I understood if they're going to do 4 days, they're trying to retain and recruit teachers and make it convenient for the adults. But it begs a question, is that the best thing for the kids? And we're really here for the kids. That's where our focus needs to be. So the bill this year, I thought, was an outstanding compromise. It still allows school districts to do a choice, 1,080 hours. Or the 180 days. But actually, we allowed them to go to as low as 165 days and still do 1,080 hours. So we give them even more flexibility.
That's kind of a question that we've been getting a lot. The Senate Bill 441, it's been a highly talked about bill. And I think that there was kind of some misconception with it that, you're taking away all the flexibility that schools have. Well, that's not really the case at all. It's still, school districts still get to decide which scheduling is best for their district, correct?
That's absolutely correct. And really what kind of hurt my heart was I discovered that there were 4 school districts in our state that only went to school 135 days per year. That's 40 days. That's over a month that those children are not in front of a highly effective teacher. And we wonder why some of our kids struggle. There are a number of schools that they were doing 145, 147 days. We just think it's time that we focus on the child and do everything we can to improve outcomes for kids. And so I was very proud to be a co-author on Senate Bill 441. And I truly believe it's going to make a difference for the kids in our state.
Love that. So that's one that you mentioned there, the Senate Bill 441, the 5-day school week or the increased hours. Or another one that I think you were the author I wanted to ask you about was the computer science
Yes.
bill. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that was exciting. So just a year ago, I was at a conference, actually 2 conferences, where a company called Code.org attended. And I learned about their mission. And their mission was really to get computer science into classrooms, K through 12. And it was a great presentation as to why they wanted to get computer science in.
Right.
And I dug in a little bit more. Last year, during the last session, I ran a bill for the State Department of Ed that we established computer science standards in K through 12. So we set the standards. This year, through this piece of legislation, it directs the State Department of Ed to create a rubric for what is, at each grade level, what's highly effective teaching practices for computer science or coding, and integrate that into all curriculum.
Man, that's awesome.
It is really awesome because you think about it today. I mean, you use a smartphone
all the time, right?
So do I. You use apps. Wouldn't it be nice to know, as a 2nd grader, a 5th grader, a junior high student, how do I do an app?
Right.
How can I write an app?
It seems to me like this is the direction that technology is going. Right? So it only makes sense to include it into the education for kids, right?
Absolutely correct. And it doesn't have to be a standalone computer science course.
Okay.
You can integrate a lot of these principles. In fact, really, we're coding. The main premise behind coding is the logic, the rationale of how to code. So you have to use logic. You have to think through, overcome obstacles.
Right.
And at the same time, you use creativity.
Love it.
So it blends the art of how do I be creative and think through this problem to find a solution, as well as the logic side of how can we make this work.
Right.
And it's a great marriage that I'm very excited that this next year
that's cool.
will be in our classroom.
That's cool. And that's Senate Bill 593. And just for clarifications, you're not going to be introducing like expert level coding for these kids, more just an introduction, like you said, to the thought process behind how it works.
That's correct. And I tell you what, you want to have fun, watch a 2nd grader on an iPad as they're creating code to make something move the way they want it to move. Now, they don't understand that they're coding. Right. But it becomes second nature to them. And that's where we need to be. There are so many industries that could hire a computer science person in a heartbeat. And we're not talking about just computer, like the people on Silicon Valley. Right. Oh, we're talking about aerospace.
Which is a growing industry.
Growing automotive.
Absolutely.
Oil and gas. You name the industry, they need computer science people.
100%, absolutely. There was one other bill, just changing gears just real quick. There was a lot of conversation on it, really excited. Seemed to be excitement around it, is the Reading Sufficiency Act.
That's right.
Senate Bill 601, I think, was the number. Can you tell us a little bit about what's behind that and what was the excitement around it?
Right. Well, I'll just tell you, when I was on a school board, I served 8 years on the Jinx School Board. And reading sufficiency has been around for many years, since the 90s. And the premise behind it is just getting 3rd graders, 1st graders, 2nd graders, 3rd graders to learn to read, so that when they turn into 4th graders, they're no longer learning to read, but they're now reading to learn.
Gotcha.
So we were kind of frustrated, though, that there was a mandate placed by the state on the schools to do certain things, and yet they did not fully fund it. I'm very proud that this is the first year since the creation of the Reading Sufficiency Act that we have fully funded this program.
That's cool.
And what it does is, some of the changes is, for instance, in kindergarten, at the semester point, kids are assessed on their reading skills. And if they are behind, immediately certain interventions can help those children. They get extra time reading. They get extra help from teachers, reading specialists. Right. Well, all those things, there's a cost to those, and we have funded that now.
That's awesome.
And starting in kindergarten. So
Yeah.
we should really see some improvement in outcomes
Love it.
for students. In fact, we have over the last 5 years seen reading as outcomes improve as we've placed more emphasis as a state on those areas. And parents have been very supportive behind that, as well as communities.
Right.
So very thankful for that.
That's awesome. You know, what I love about every single thing that you mentioned here was that everything that the Senate, specifically the Senate, has been focused on is focusing on the student.
That's right.
And the outcome and making sure that the student has the best possible situation to succeed.
That's
So
right.
That's awesome. I love that mentality of it.
And circling all the way back to the very first bill, or before the bill that I talked about, the additional funds in the classroom, giving those superintendents and school boards the flexibility to hire additional teachers to lower class sizes, to hire additional speech pathologists or reading specialists, classroom supplies for those teachers. I mean, it was a great year, and I was just very proud to be here this year.
That's exciting. There's a lot of excitement, it seems like, kind of being able to look at all the accomplishments of session and being able to look at all the bills that were passed. There's a lot of great things that have been done for Oklahoma, specifically in education this year. Would you kind of agree with that overall?
I would definitely agree with that.
Awesome, absolutely. Well, Senator, we're about out of time here, but do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
It's going to be a busy interim.
Yeah.
Many conferences out there to continue to learn for many of us on the education committee. And excited to hit it hard next year when we come back.
That's right. And even like last interim, there was a ton of interim studies, different
There
things
are.
like that. The work does not stop just because we're out of session.
No.
So I think that's a common misconception a lot of time. But, Senator, thank you so much for everything that you do for education, first off, and just for taking the time to sit with us and explain it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be back soon with another update for you. But I hope you've been able to learn a little bit about everything that's been done for education this year. A lot of amazing things have gone towards really improving our Oklahoma education system this year. A lot of amazing things. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. We'll be back soon, and see you later. Bye.